Okay, well, I forgot to record earlier today, so I'm recording at I think it's 11:57, so it's pretty much the end of the day. I definitely have to make more of a habit of recording earlier. Like getting rid of it on dog walks was a good idea because I don't do dog walks everywhere. And the idea I'm trying right now is I'm trying to build my habits around the building blocks of my day I keep with me everywhere I go, which makes my routine a lot more sustainable for my kind of lifestyle of spend a little time here, a little time there. And so, for example, the two things I'm just focused on right now are meditation and recording. These are just the two things I want to do every day. And by default, I don't have these in my life. And so the commitment to recording so far has been great. It's been really, really good fun. Also, I mean, I used to do it, just not on a daily basis. So that's the only change there. And then as far as meditation goes, I've done it before, then I stopped, whatever. Now I'm I want to commit to it for a little bit of a longer period of time, basically indefinitely, because I think it's a really good habit that, as Ray Dalio puts it, gives you the equanimity to make good decisions under high stress. And I want to build that around a habit that I carry everywhere with me. And so in this case, I'm going with showering because I do that every day, everywhere in the world. So the idea is that I don't tie it to any physical, I don't tie it to any specific environment that I have in a specific country. So for example, if you want to do sun cream, build a sun cream habit and you keep it at your desk, the problem is if you move to a different country and you don't have that specific desk, or let's say you're in a place where you don't have a desk for a while, then you lose that habit. So that's what's destroyed a lot of my previous good habits. And one of the challenges of being a digital nomad, any kind of nomad really, like anybody who travels a lot, this is just something that you will deal with. And yeah, I think building something around with mobility in mind, especially for the kind of life that I want, that I do actively live. Yeah. Today was incredibly unproductive as far as actual work goes. I had good calls though. I had a bunch of calls and moved things forward. Now I have to sit down, email things, do a bunch of work. I have to figure out where I can give my assistant more work because I think I'm still underutilizing her to an extent. I think one of my weaknesses is sometimes being on top of admin things, and that's really where I think my assistant, she really helps out on that side. Everything that is taking care of communications, emails, sharing resources with people. The thing is, it doesn't take that much physical time. And you could make the argument, before I had an assistant, if you'd asked me to make the argument against one, I'd basically tell you, it literally doesn't take you that much time. You just add these little tasks to your list and get them done and check them off, and that's it. There are a couple emails, whatever, 10, 15 minutes a day. The thing is, though, that adds up, and just the mental energy of having to remember those things, write them down, whatever, is, at least for me in my experience, it has felt like a fair amount has come off my plate by just giving those tasks to my assistant and not having to worry about them. So yeah, that's been I want to do more of that. I need to put out a new version for this one specific client. I need to ship something that should be final this week. What else do I need to do? I need to update a data dashboard. I could probably do that tomorrow though. I need to work on iOS Bluetooth stuff. Really just provide the things for the guy I hired because I need that. And then also just prepare things for the new project, send over a quote, details, etc. And yeah, what else do I have on my plate? I have a lot of these little things. Posting a video made for the internet, if you will. And I just made a voice memo, which is one of my private reflections. And sometimes I do voice memos. I think I might share those eventually as well. But anyway, what I was talking about was just what my plan is at the moment. And the idea behind this development agency is a building block for me to learn. It's an arena where I can practice the skills of building like a technical company, building a team, business development, all of these things. I have a place where I can practice them, and I think the content side is also something I'm really excited about because I suck at it, and it's a refreshing thing to be terrible. Like I watched my video that I posted, or no, not that I posted, the one that I'm gonna post. Like it's basically how to start a development agency. If you're interested, if whatever, it's the production quality is so low. I'm like, dude, this looks terrible. This looks awful. The lighting is horrible. The camera is really like mediocre. The background was wet, like this wardrobe. Like it's just, but but I can look at it with the eyes of the future and say this is how I started, and like I can feel that, and that belief is really driving, and it's helping me stay centered and like put out things that I don't think are great. Like it will become better, but it's not right now. Like it is a necessary step to go through these shitty iterations in order to get better. And I think it's just been refreshing to throw myself into something that I genuinely suck at. And I want to double down on React development right now, like in terms of becoming a really much more senior developer myself and getting far more technical. I want to double down on creating a better data pipeline, like understanding what's going on in my company at all times in terms of productivity. Like, are we shipping things fast? How can we get faster? What are the changes we can make? That's something that's really exciting for me. And I want to build more automations, things like that around that. And yeah, I think that's the next big focus is like, I want to get back on top of client fulfillment and also add metrics. Like what kind of metrics can we add to track how good our fulfillment actually is? That's one of the biggest challenges in development is developer productivity. How do you measure it? How do you keep track? How do you see the things that improve, the things that don't? And I think in that space, like basically there's these clients of mine, the most profitable guys, or not the most necessarily profitable, but the most enjoyable to work with right now are guys who have a company, who have a product, and we build out a specific part because they need things fast. You know, they value the time over the money. And right now we provide value by basically coming in and being good at what we do and developing for them. My question is, how can we get to the point where they want us to consult them on how to improve their process? Like that's the place that I want to be. I want to be able to consult the best the biggest companies in the world who do React development, who use React in production. I want them to come to us and say, how do you guys do this so quickly? I think OpenAI ships extremely fast. That's one of the things that they do that I want to replicate. And sometimes it's certain things that you can only get at scale. So for example, you know, I run a tiny team. It's very different running a team under 10 people and a team with like 50 people because the level of integration you need to have is very, very different. But I want to see if we can, okay, like with the situation I have, can I add in metrics and start tracking productivity and seeing the little, like, where can we do 1% improvements so that we can slowly see these metrics go up and trends over time, things like that. And that's something I think I can focus on this year. It's again, like last year was my first full year of business, like full-time on it, whatever. And at the end of that year, I saw some metrics which really permitted me to this year look at my goals and be like, and understand better what I need to achieve them. And this is the same case with any development metrics that I implement now. The work that I do now will only yield great results in 6 to 9 months or later, right? There is a certain latency, so the earlier you implement things, the better. I'm acutely aware of that fact, and so I want to start that as soon as possible. And I think that's something I want to focus on is like just being good to the point where, yeah, I mean, basically growing authority in the industry. As you niche down, you do naturally grow authority. I just want to double down on that and like grow authority faster as much as possible. And that starts by looking inward and seeing what we can do better and figuring out how can I track my productivity of my developers, my code base, whatever. Like how fast do we go? And how can we go faster? And thinking of unconventional ways. Like it's the story of that Olympic coach who, I don't know what, he got a cycling team to be first and he just did it by 1% improvement. It's a story that is actually brought up in Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I mean, that's the whole premise of the entire book, which is 1% better every day. And what he, you know, the things he was doing was like, he'd start giving the players massages. He'd give them pillows. He'd give them whatever else. You know, if it's like maybe I run an experiment where I do a 4-day work week for 2 months. Does that affect productivity? Do we do better? Do we do worse? Like all of these things, I want to experiment in the most unconventional way possible and figure out the little like upticks, downticks in productivity. And I can only do that if first I need the data to observe. Then once I have the data, I can work on the methods and tinker with variables to see, okay, does this improve? Does it, make it worse? Can I make some kind of composite score based on a bunch of data? But then again, it's hard because the biggest challenge in developer productivity is that you don't want to be looking at the wrong metrics. So for example, somebody outside the industry might say lines of code. Why do we look at lines of code? That's the output of a productive developer, right? And the answer is no, because you can have a really great developer who writes fewer lines of code because it's more efficient and he solves a really hard problem or something, and a junior developer who writes more code but it's really basic. So that for example is a terrible measure because it can be proxy for the wrong things. And yeah, that's just something I want to think about. But I have to stay centered on the things immediately at hand, and also figure out how to get those off my plate. One of the challenges is like a lot of the time I'm not at a point where I have talent that I can trust, and so like Walter is my backend lead. He's a guy I can trust, but there's this new client that we're onboarding next week. Very excited, very happy. Now, who's going to have to fulfill for them? It's going to be me. It's going to be me because we don't have anybody else. Like there's no other front-end developer on the team that I can trust to do this right now. And so at the end of the day, I have to take the responsibility for that. And I do want to eventually get out of that position, but for the time being, it is what it is. And I have to stay focused on that. And again, a common pitfall of mine, I would say, oh my God, this grenade beeping drives me absolutely insane. Anyway, a common pitfall of mine is that I think too big picture. I get very excited about strategy, the big picture, the game, the looking at the whole board game and looking at where the pieces are, planning how to move things, and zooming out. This is a strength in some regards, but it's also a weakness because then it hinders my ability to execute directly sometimes, because I get too excited and caught up thinking about the strategy that I don't pay enough attention to just the like being in the weeds on that day and that specific thing. Once I get in a good focus state, I can focus, but my natural state is more one of strategy and things like that. And I think, is easier said than done. Like it's very easy to think a lot of things, then you have to actually do them and execute. And I've definitely gotten much better over time at that, but just I do have a natural tendency toward favoring I think the big picture. That's also what enabled me to get to where I am, but I gotta get rid of the ums and the ahs. But I'll be getting to work now, and hopefully I hope to sleep before 2 a.m., maybe 3. And that's the plan for today. Not much else going on. So hopefully tomorrow I'll record something a little bit earlier, go to the gym, and I'll have my fair share of work cut out as well. So that's the plan at the moment.